a week before Christmas, I got locked out of my Instagram account that was like my main form of marketing, my main posting thing, right? And I got locked out and I couldn't get back in. And I tried everything. I was like going to the temple. I was saying prayers. I was like, please just help me get back into this. Cause this is like what is, my form of marketing and how I'm reaching people and getting my art out there, right? And didn't happen. And so I started
Mhm.
completely over, new account, 0 followers.
This week, I'm bringing to you Kenna Barber, one of my longtime dear friends and an incredible LDS artist. Kenna got her start several years ago, and she and I crossed paths when she actually joined my Etsy course, which just goes to show how long she and I have been good friends. And so I've had so much fun watching her journey of growth in her business and in her artwork over the last few years, and most recently, just welcoming their first baby boy into their family. I asked her some questions about transitioning into being a mom and running a business with a tiny baby at home. So we talk all about that, including the challenges of being a business owner and also being an artist. She has an incredible Instagram account, which I've linked in the show notes for you, but she actually lost access to one of her Instagram accounts several years ago and had to start over from scratch. Additionally, we talked a little bit about AI and some of the challenges of being an artist in the AI economy. So we dove into that as well. I think you're really going to love her perspective, especially if you're an artist, but even if you're not, as someone who decided to leave the traditional path, decided to leave the university and not get a degree and really follow her dreams. She is someone who has fearlessly followed her dreams from the very beginning, even at such a young age. And I'm so proud of her and just excited for you to be able to hear her perspective. Here's Kenna. Okay, I am so excited to bring my dear friend, Kenna Barber, on the show with me today. And Kenna, why don't you just start out by telling us about you, your background story, and what you're up to?
Okay, so I am Kenna. I am an LDS artist. I mostly do LDS Christian artwork and dabble in landscapes and flowers and other things like that too. Do you want me to just like go on my whole story?
Yeah.
How I started? Okay. I'll try to give the quick version because I would say like my business and like journey to what I do now started probably about 10 years ago. And so in high school, well, middle school more, I started getting more into art. And I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this. And I really enjoyed it. I was just taking, the elective art classes you can do in middle school. And then when I got to high school, I did some painting classes and I really enjoyed those too. And so I just started painting more on my own. And then I started an Instagram account for it. I think my first post was like 2015, 2016, around that time. And I would just post here and there, like what I was working on. And then I started doing like watercolor temples and like the classic faceless watercolor portraits that I feel like was like the barrier to entry of like every artist. It's like that's where they started. And then it like snowballed from there. And so I would do those. And occasionally people would be like, hey, will you do this for a missionary that I have? Or will you do this for my mom's birthday or something like that? And so I probably charged like 20 bucks, like pretty much dirt cheap for those little paintings I would do. And it was really fun. I really liked it. And I always had dreams of doing it full time and making it more. And so I finally got the courage to open an Etsy shop when I was a freshman in college. So I think this was 2021, I want to say January of 2021. And I opened an Etsy shop and I had like 5 watercolor prints on there. And I like figured out how to print them and scan them and everything. And I opened it and I posted and it was like crickets. Nothing happened. And so that was in January. I remember my first sale was in April, I want to say. So a couple months later. And it was for 4 stickers. And the person who bought it was actually this 12-year-old kid that in the summers, I was working at this like summer camp kind of thing. And this kid who lived in like Chicago but traveled to Utah for the summers bought it and left a note. He was like, I just wanted to support your small business. Like, I think this is so awesome and so cute.
Oh,
Thank you. So that's where my very first Etsy sale came from, which is so funny to look back on now. And then, yeah, it kind of just like sat for a couple more months and nothing really happened. And then August of that year, I got married, and then that fall, it was my mother-in-law's birthday, and so we're like, "What should we get her?" And my husband was like, "Oh, you could do, like, a painting of Christ or something for her and let's give her that." And I was like, "Great idea." So I made that, and then I was like, "Oh, I should try posting this," because the artwork I had before on my Etsy was just some, like, little quotes and a little, like, mountain landscape, not very similar to what I do now. And so I created that painting, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna post this on Etsy too." And that one started to gain some traction, and then I did another more, like, Christ faith-focused painting, and then that one gained more traction too, and so it kind of started to grow from there. About a year later, I would say, is when it, like, really picked up, and I believe this is when I got your Etsy course, which is
My
so funny to
gosh.
look back on now, like,
That's wild.
yeah. And so, like, when you talk about your business journey, I'm like, "Oh, I have been with you," like,
We have been there in lockstep.
yep. So, it's so funny to look back on, and maybe it was fall of 2021. I don't know, doesn't matter. But I remember it was probably, like, what, $500, and I was like, "I really wanna do this, I feel like it would be really beneficial," but it was so scary to make that step, and that was the first, like, really big investment I'd ever made into my business. But I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna do it. I feel like I can make my money back, like, Christmas is coming up, I'll be able to, make more money during the holiday season and things like that." So, I got your course, I did it, it was so helpful, and I feel like that helped me grow a ton. So, yeah, then things kinda just started building, and then I remember I was at about, like, 13,000 followers. Let's see, with, like, October of 2022? Trying to think of years. Yeah, that seems right. Anyways, and I was going to school at Utah State. I was studying marketing, and I was also working part-time for this kind of like local swim and activewear company, and I was really liking it. I was running their social media, and I was also doing art, part-time too. So I had these kind of 3 things I was doing, but I really wanted to kinda quit my job. I wasn't like, I liked it, but I was like, I'm kinda getting sick of this, like, I
Mhm.
really just wanna focus on art, right? But I was so scared to, like, actually quit, and then I just randomly got fired from my job, basically, in October of that year, and now looking back, I'm like, "Oh, God was basically just like, 'Hey, I know you're not gonna quit, so I'm gonna make you quit,'" basically.
Let me help you out.
Yeah, yeah, he's like, "Here, I have a better path for you." I was like, "Okay,
Mm.
great." So then I was like, "Okay, we're just gonna go all in. I'm not gonna try to find a different job. We're just gonna try to make artwork." And then a couple months later, I ended up dropping out of school too. And I had always planned on getting my bachelor's, I kind of planned like, okay, I'm gonna get my marketing degree. I'm gonna work in marketing for a couple years. Once I start a family, hopefully I can just do art full time or, like have that on the side as I'm a mom, right? And so I was like, "'Kay, I'm not gonna keep going to school, like, it's so much money, it's so much time. I think what's gonna be the most beneficial is if I just put all my time and efforts and even more, like, invest in more things that are gonna build my business instead of investing in this degree that, like, really might not get me to my end goal," right?
Mhm.
So that's kinda where I'm at, and then a week before Christmas, I got locked out of my Instagram account that was, like, my main form of marketing, my main posting thing, right? And I got locked out, and I couldn't get back in, and I tried everything. I was, like, going to the temple, I was saying prayers, I was like, "Please just help me get back into this, because this is, like, what is, my form of marketing and how I'm reaching people and getting my art out there," right? And didn't happen, and so I started
Mm.
completely over, new account, 0 followers, and luckily, I was able to grow pretty quickly in that first year, and, like, honestly, it was a miracle that, like, people found me again or, like, I had a couple posts and reels go somewhat viral, and so I just found the right people again, and it grew pretty quickly in that time span. So, yeah, that was crazy. And then since then, I feel like it's kind of plateaued a little bit, but hopefully we're still growing and just, yeah, keep it on going. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah. What year was that when you got locked out of your IG?
That was in very end of 2022.
Okay, so a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm like, now it seems like a while ago, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember when you were like in the middle of this. Walk us through, you kind of already shared like that was terrifying, but
Hmm.
like really, I don't even have a following the size of yours, but I would imagine that if your primary, Instagram is your primary marketing platform, revenue source, that's probably very distressing.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
did your prayers sound like in those days, weeks when you were starting to realize I'm not going to get access to this? Or how long did it take you to like come to terms with that and then start over?
Hmm. Yeah, I think at least for a week after, because it was like a week before Christmas. So, like, during that time, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to get back. I'm not gonna start over yet. And then I feel like, yeah, like beginning of January is when I was like, okay, I'm gonna still keep trying, but I'm gonna start a new account. And then it was probably towards the end of that month that I was like, okay, this isn't good.
The door is closed.
It's close. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, I just remember praying like, please, like, help me find someone who can help me or just know what I can do. I remember. So I don't know how to explain it, but like, there's a way that I could try to get like authorized again by doing like this face ID thing.
hmm.
And so I remember like going to the temple and like being in the dressing room and being like, okay, I'm just gonna try one more time and like hopefully it'll work this time. And I do it and won't work. And then I'm like,
You're like, I'm in the temple.
yeah,
The veil is thinner here.
yeah,
This has to be the key. And it still doesn't work.
it still doesn't work. And then I would like, go do my session or whatever, and then come back, try again, still won't work.
Oh,
Okay, that's fine. Oh, yeah, it was hard. And I mean, just in the moment, it's like I didn't have an email list. I didn't have really anything else. Like that was where my audience was.
yeah.
So it was stressful.
Do you feel like I'm imagining little Kenna in like middle school, high school, who's dreaming about being a full-time artist? Maybe you were even, this was like early college years too.
Hmm.
Was it your dream to be an LDS, a Christian artist, or did God just hand that to you? Or how would you describe that?
I would say yes, it was. And I think it was mostly because of the people I was seeing on Instagram. Well, I can think of two specific people, like Celeste Clark, if you'll follow
Yep.
her, and the color Amber. And I remember following both of them, and I was like, they are so cool. They're creating like meaningful pieces of artwork. I want to be like them.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that's kind of why I was like, okay. And I even kind of like strayed away from that for a little bit. Or there's even a time me and my husband got in a fight early on because he was like, I think you should try to like do some other artwork, like maybe do some like Disney stuff or something. And I was like, no, I want to do LDS artwork or Christian artwork, at least.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I feel like that always has been the path that I've felt called to.
That's so cool. Do you remember one of your first pieces of artwork that you created that people seem to really gravitate to?
Hmm. Yeah. So I feel like the one that sticks out the most to me was called Heavenly Friend. And I've actually since made an updated version of it. And it was basically just like Christ and a girl sitting on a beach, like soft colored kind of sunset, sunrise kind of vibe. And it just looks like they're just sitting there talking, like having a conversation. And I made different hair colors of it too. And I feel like people really gravitated towards that because they could see themselves in that
Mm.
and kind of see, like, oh, like God is there. Jesus Christ, they are there when we are praying and when we're, asking for these miracles or big things, or even just in those small moments too of like the everyday, like, okay, help me have more patience for this moment. Help me get through the day or whatever it is. I feel like it just helped people and me too, just realize like, okay, he is there.
Mm.
They are listening because sometimes it can be hard to really think about that and like grapple with that in our minds. Because
Yeah.
it's like, how are they? like, listening to all of our prayers. I feel like that's something I have a hard time, like, understanding sometimes. So I feel like that visual was really helpful for people and me.
Yeah. Okay, that leads me to another question. Is there a piece that you've created that stands out in your mind as one that strengthened your testimony as you were creating it or after you created it? Tell me about one that jumps out at you.
Mm, I have, like, 5 in my head. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I bet.
one I can think of, I made it, like, a year and a half ago. It's called Daughter of a King, and it shows Christ placing a flower crown on the little girl's head. And it basically just symbolizes divine worth and that, we are all, like, anointed with his power and with, our own individual, like, gifts and strengths and talents, and that we are all a daughter of a king. And so that's one that I feel like strengthened my testimony of my divine worth a lot.
Mm. 'Cause you were working in the temple for a little while, right? Am I
Mhm.
remembering that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did it for 18 months. So I just stopped before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Were you always at the Logan Temple, or was that down here?
it was down here. So I was at the Timpanogos temple.
Gotcha. So
Yes.
cool. So cool.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done that before I had kids.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is you can still do it. I feel like a lot of people think that once you have kids or you're in like those busy phases, you can't do it. But there's actually a girl in our old ward who she had 3 kids and she was pregnant with her fourth. And she would work in the temple every week still. And it was only for a short time. But she was like, I hate, well, she came or she got it for testimony meeting one week. And she was like, I know this is like a crazy thing for me to do, but I just feel like even if it's just for a couple months, like I need to go work in the temple. So she would just do it in the evenings, but you could also do Saturdays. So
Yeah.
it is a cool thing that like you can still do if you just have, 4 hours on one day of a week.
Yeah. Do you I'm thinking about you dropping out of your degree.
Mhm.
Was that a difficult decision for you to make? Was it an easy decision? Walk us through if we were a fly on the wall in Kenna's apartment when that was going on, what did that look like for you?
Uh-huh. It was definitely hard because I had always visualized myself graduating from college, and that was a big thing my parents stressed too, is like, you're gonna graduate from high school, you're gonna go on a mission, or you're gonna go to college, or, it's like, you are going to get a degree. And that's something I definitely wanted and what I visualized for myself. And so then when that changed, I was like, oh, like I kind of had like an identity crisis a little bit just because that wasn't what I was expecting. And at the time too, I kinda came more from a place of, like, finances and, like, we didn't wanna take out student debt, and so we it more was like, "'Kay, let's get my husband through school. Once he's done, maybe I'll go back, I can do online," something like that. But then I feel like once that door kinda opened or, like, we were thinking about it in a different way, like, another option arose, I was like, "Wait, do I actually need this degree? Is it gonna get me where I want it?" And so, yeah, that's kind of more what steered us or, why I didn't end up finishing.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, one person could be like, "Oh, why wouldn't you get your degree?" And someone else would be like, "Why would you?
No, exactly. Yeah.
What value does this add to my life, besides
Mhm.
accruing debt that I then have to pay off?" Especially if you're
Yeah,
like, "I already
exactly.
know what I wanna do,
Yeah.
and I'm already doing it. I'm already being paid to do it." Do
Mhm.
you feel like do you feel like you've faced any is that still something that bothers you? The fact that you don't have a degree, is it something you think about, that you worry about?
No, I honestly don't even really think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really glad it ended up that way because, like, sure, I learned some helpful things from, like, those marketing, and I was also doing a minor in entrepreneurship, and so I learned some helpful things, but a lot of it was common sense.
Yep.
Like, I already knew it, or it was more like corporate marketing. Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't really have applied that to my business.
Right. Well, and as someone who did get a business degree and then started a business, it's like, they don't teach you anything about actually running a business.
That curriculum with
Seriously,
people who actually
seriously.
know. Yeah.
Yet, if you're actually gonna here's what you really need if you're gonna start a business, you need to hire X,
Yeah,
Y, and Z, right?
exactly.
If there's someone listening to this who's facing a decision like that, that's like a major life path moment, maybe it's related to getting a degree or not getting a degree. Maybe it's related to serving a mission or not serving a mission or something like that. I'm imagining like a young woman who's like recently graduated from high school, who has a dream of what she wants to do, just like how you were.
Mhm,
What advice would you give to her?
mhm. That made me think of another reason why I kind of decided not to keep going to school will always be there, but the opportunity to grow my business and have more time towards that, I feel like that wasn't always gonna be the case. And so for me, I was like, "Okay, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to school. That's always an option." But for this moment, like, I think it's more important or a better use of my time to focus on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say pray about it too and go with your gut. I feel like the hard thing too is sometimes when you pray about a big decision like that, God will be like, either option's great. And you're like,
Yep.
okay, well, that doesn't really help me. And so sometimes you just kind of have to like go with one option that feels the best and just trust that it'll work out. And if it's the wrong path, then you'll probably realize it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. This reminds me of when I was deciding to serve a mission. So I started my degree at BYU in September, and then the age change announcement happened in October.
Oh,
So
wow.
in my mind, I was like, should I go on a study abroad? Should I buy a car? I had this like cash to spend. I was like, what should I do with it? And that was literally the question I was praying for going into conference. And then the age change announcement happened. And like you, I kind of felt like I don't know. Like all the paths in front of me are good
Mm,
options. And I felt like God was kind of like, you'll be fine no matter what you choose. But I've actually been thinking about this a lot in Nephi when Nephi is receiving his version of the vision of the tree of life and the other subsequent pieces of the vision that Nephi receives and records. The question that the Spirit asks Nephi is, what desirest thou? And I kind of wish that I would have approached that decision from that angle. Like, what do you want, Caitlin? What do you want, Kenna? Like, you can decide and you can do what you want to do sometimes, right? Like, I think it's important to align our will with God's, yes, but also there is a lot of room. There's a lot of room in that for what he wants us to do is usually he wants us to do a good thing, and there's a million ways to do that. So that's a
mhm,
question I've been thinking about a lot recently. Like, what desire is that? What do I want? And that's something I was thinking about. If I was giving advice to a young woman who's like, what should I do? That would be what I would start with.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
like
I want to change gears a tiny bit. I would imagine as an artist, and there's lots of, not like a ton, there's a good number of LDS artists. They all have very different styles. They all have very different angles or thoughts that they want to share. Because it's kind of like if you're going to share artwork on Instagram, you get to be an artist and you also I was going to say have to, you also get to create like thoughtful words about the artwork that you've created, which is like two different skills coming together.
mhm,
Have you ever struggled with comparison? And if so, what do you do to keep that at bay, to keep that from stopping you?
mhm. I'd say absolutely.
Hmm.
I feel like that is a huge thing for any business owners, but I feel like
True.
particularly artists, it can be really hard not to compare your work to other people's. And like, even if they have a different style than mine, I'll see something they create that I like. And I'm like, oh, I love that. Like, how can I make something like that? But I'm like, no, I need to just trust that, like, my style and what I'm doing is me. And there's people who like that. And there's people who like their style too. But, like, you know, try to stay in your own lane. One thing that helps me is just to block it out, and so, there's been times where I've just, like, muted certain accounts so I don't see it, and I can just focus on what I'm doing, and I feel like that is the most important thing, and then also just focusing on what my strengths are. So it's like, they might be really good at, doing, like, more detailed paintings, or they might be really good at doing more abstract or, like, looser things, but I just have to focus on, like, "Okay, this is my strength," and trust, like, there's people who like this, and yeah, just try to stick with that instead of constantly worrying about what other
Yeah.
people are doing.
Yeah. I'm also a big advocate for muting accounts.
Mhm.
or even unfollowing.
Yeah.
It's just like if you struggle, hold on one second. I guess you probably can't hear that sound in the recording, but I'll turn off my notifications anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Um, okay, good. Yeah, I'm a big advocate for muting accounts when needed, and sometimes I still need that a lot. It's just like I don't need that constant reminder. And there's even people who I like, I really admire. Like, there's different levels of it. Some days my brain will go straight to like comparison, therefore I am less than. And other days it will go to comparison, therefore I can do that too.
Mhm.
But sometimes it just helps to not even have that noise in my brain, in my peripheral view. So I'm a big advocate for that too. What would you say your strength is as an artist?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say one of my strengths is more, I don't know, maybe like heartfelt, personal pictures of Christ that are a little bit more colorful. I feel like there are some that lean more like the beige, like simplistic. And, there's like all sides of the spectrum, but I feel like I kind of have like a good middle ground of that. And yeah, like you were saying, I love to write about my pieces afterwards and even sometimes create a poem or something that goes along with it. And I feel like that adds a lot of meaning to the piece. And so I feel like that is one of my strengths too, is kind of putting some of those feelings into words.
Yeah. I adore some of the poems that you've written recently. And like, genuinely, I'm not just saying this as a friend, like, that is genuinely in my mind, like, two beautiful gifts that you've been given to be able to represent something visually and with words is pretty amazing to have both of those skills. And like you said, I do think the words and the story do kind of help me connect more with the piece. I'm thinking of one that you posted that was about motherhood, which is so relevant because you were entering motherhood, right? You're in this new phase. Anyway, I just think you're amazing at that. I would agree.
Yeah.
Those are your
Oh,
strengths too.
thank you.
Will you say a little bit about being a business owner and becoming a mom?
Hmm.
Walk us through what that journey's been like for you.
Oh boy. I mean, it's been fun. I feel like I feel very blessed is the biggest thing that I get to stay home and I still have a way that I can help provide income for my family. And I also think it has been really beneficial for me to have something outside of motherhood
Hmm.
because, like, of course, I love being a mom and I love my little baby so much. But I feel like through postpartum, like right now, I had him 3.5 months ago. And so I feel like I'm still in those early stages of figuring it
Yeah,
out
you are.
and like, all the hormones and emotions and all of that. And I
Hmm.
feel like it has been really helpful for me to have other goals, even if they're small, and other things to do that aren't just being a mom. So overall, I would say it has been a really positive experience. I think right now I'm just trying to figure out how to keep doing it all, and I'm in the process of realizing it's not gonna look how it used to. Like, I
Hmm.
don't have all the time in the day to make posts, to paint, to and then do other things like hobbies and working out and cooking and cleaning and all of those things. So I feel like now I'm just having to be really strategic with my time and look at what is actually gonna move the needle in my business and what is gonna fulfill me too,
Mm.
and just focus my time on those things.
Yeah. Have you found any things that are working well for you? I know you're like literally 3 months postpartum, so you're still adjusting to all the things, but what's
Mhm.
something that you found so far that's working really well to be able to manage as much of it as you can?
Oh, I don't know if I have any specifics. Let me think. One helpful thing right now is that my husband's a teacher, and so he has this summer off, and so that's been really helpful for me to be like, "Okay, give me, like, 2, 3 hours in the afternoon." Like, that's my time to just, like, shut my door, do whatever I need to. So that's been helpful just to kinda have a dedicated time each day. And then I feel like this is just a really simple thing, but setting timers, I find so helpful. So when he goes to bed, a lot of times I'll set a timer for 30 minutes or an hour and be like, "Okay, this is my time to paint." Like, I'm not worrying about anything else. that's my time to do this. And then once the timer goes off, then I'll be like, okay, now I'm gonna go clean the kitchen, and now I'm gonna like go do this and this. And then a lot of times I'll come back and be like, okay, and now I'm gonna, write an email, make my post for tomorrow, do whatever I need to. So I feel like just being strategic and kind of like setting those chunks of time aside to do what you need to do and also what you want to do is really beneficial.
Mm. That I think you actually have figured out that secret. Takes a lot of us a really long time. I want to say something though about that. Like, I feel like I was so worried that having my thing in addition to having my kids would be a problem or would hold me back or be a problem for my kids. But what I found, and I think a lot of the women listening to this are like craving hearing women saying what we're saying, which is that it's been a really good thing. It's been good. It's been good for me, obviously, like that I get to have something to work on that I can see results from pretty quickly. Where with
Mhm,
kids, you don't always get that like dopamine hit, right? It's like it's just a long, drawn out growing process. There aren't like usually milestones yet to hit like you can in a business. But
mhm,
also, I think it's really good for my kids. I know it's really good for my kids. It's like first of all, they get a happy, fulfilled mom, which is very important. I've been through seasons where I was not the happy, fulfilled mom. So I can say confidently that they do get that most of the time. But I'm also really excited to be able to provide an example for them of what it looks like to love them and take care of them and do what makes me happy too. So, for anyone out there who's listening who's like, I don't know, this feels contradictory to what the pattern that I was taught or raised with. I don't know if that's still as common as I feel like it was for me as, like in young women's, it was like, when you get married, you're going to have kids and they're going to be the best thing ever. And no one said it's also going to be really challenging.
mhm.
So I felt kind
Yeah.
of blindsided by that. Another question that I had for you is, will you walk us through your process for creating artwork? Do you have like a ritual that you go through to get in the mindset of now it's time for me to paint? I love that you set a timer for yourself. One, so that you make sure that it happens, but also so that you make sure all the other things in your life happen that need to happen. But if we were in your office space, what would we see happen when Kenna's getting in the zone ready to paint?
Mhm. Well, I'd say every painting starts as a little line of text in my notes app.
I
There's
love
always a
that.
list going of like, okay, here's my ideas, here's what's inspiring me. So I feel like that's how every painting is born, basically, is like the idea. And then a lot of times the inspiration behind it is just a feeling I'm wanting to create. Or I don't know, sometimes it's not a specific like scripture story or message even. A lot of times it's like, oh, I saw this picture on Pinterest that I love. Like, I'm kind of inspired by that. Like, let's kind of weave that into it or, do something like that. So I feel like it always starts with the idea and then I'll usually sketch it out on my iPad and kind of just do a little color study of like, okay, here's, just kind of like a mock up of it basically. And then I'll get onto a canvas or panel or paper, whatever medium I'm doing. And I don't know. I'm like, I don't have a specific process, but I just, yeah, try to always have a prayer in my heart that it's going to turn out the way I'm hoping.
Hmm.
Cause that's one thing too. It's like sometimes I almost get scared to do it or to like keep working on a certain part because I don't want to mess it up because I have this idea of what I want it to be in my head. And so sometimes I really like the timer thing really helps me because then it forces me just to do it and start. But yeah, and then sometimes I'm listening to a church faith-based podcast or music or something like that, and sometimes I'm listening to country music. Like, I don't really have a specific thing like that I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Do you How do your ideas for your artwork hit you most often, or is it a variety of ways?
I would say it's a variety of ways. A lot of times, actually, it's through music, and so I love listening to worship music, like
Mhm.
any type, like from, like the E of White songs or just more broad, like Christian music. And so a lot of times I feel like I'll hear a line in a song that I'm like, "Ooh, I really like that. Like, how could I translate that to a painting?" Or like the message and feeling of a song. I kind of am like, "Okay, how could I create instead of like the visual reminder of it, how could I or the no, wait, audio reminder of it? Yeah, how could I create the visual reminder of that so someone
Mhm.
could like see that on their wall and feel that same feeling?"
Yeah.
So I feel like that is a lot of times how an idea comes to me.
Mm. Is there I have 2 questions for you. I'm gonna throw both at you because they might tie together or they might not. But question number
Okay.
1 is, do you feel like if you had to identify or put your finger on a theme or a lesson that you've learned over the entirety of running and owning your business, what would that be? And the second part of that question, is there a specific verse of scripture that comes to mind that reminds you about your business, that makes you think about the work that God wants to do through you?
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like they do kind of tie together. Let me find my scripture that I was thinking about. Okay, so I would say the main theme of my business when I look back on all the years is resilience and pushing forward when it's hard. Because I have had multiple times where I wanted to quit. Like in those first months of my Etsy, I almost quit. When I lost my Instagram account, I thought about quitting. Or at least it was really hard and I was like, crap, what do I do? And then there have been times in the past 3 years and even the past month where I'm like, "This is really hard. I don't know what to do. Like, what the heck? How do I keep going?" You know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like just learning how to be resilient and keep going when it's hard has been the biggest thing that I've learned. And then to answer your second question, the one of my favorite scriptures is First Nephi 17:13, and I'll just read it quick. It says, "And I will also be your light in the wilderness, and I will prepare the way before you. If it so be that ye shall keep my commandments, wherefore, inasmuch as ye shall keep my commandments, ye shall be led towards the promised land, and ye shall know that it is by me that you are led." So
Mm.
I love that because a lot of times in life, and especially in business, it feels like we're in the wilderness and we don't know where we're supposed to go, where we're supposed to turn, what path to take. But I love that this scripture reminds us that Jesus Christ and God will be our light. And if we are, keeping the commandments, having faith, praying, doing those things, that we will be led and know which way we should go. And I like how it says the promised land, but I feel like we can like put other words in there, like we can be led towards our desires, towards abundance, towards prosperity, whatever it is that we are wanting, we can be led towards that and then know that it's by Jesus Christ and God that we are led there.
Do you feel like God I mean, your subject matter is literally the savior, so it would make sense to me if it feels like he is leading and guiding your business. Does that feel true for you? Tell me what that looks like for you.
I would say yes, but I don't think I'm always the best at knowing how to utilize that. Like, I feel like I have a lot of strengths in my business and in like my faith and my testimony. And sometimes like praying and reading my scriptures honestly isn't one for me. Whereas I feel like service and going to the temple, that is something that comes easier for me. And so one thing I honestly want to work on more is having a stronger relationship with Jesus Christ in my business and being like,
Mm.
okay, I'm struggling with this. Like, how do I figure this out? Or like, what's the thing I should be focusing on right now or whatever it is. So yes, I feel like they do for sure lead my business, but also I could be better at utilizing that, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I feel like anyone could say that. I don't want you to, like, feel like you're not, because I know that you are, and I also think I actually love what you said, but I do think there is some truth to if if you it's still a really good thing if you can still feel connected with God through going to the temple. For me, I there were years where I was like, "I don't get a lot out of reading the scriptures. I'm like, should I say that? I don't know if I should say that. But what I got the most out of was listening to conference talks.
Mhm.
Those for a season spoke to me more. I'm in a season right now where the scriptures are speaking to me, which I'm really grateful for. But I'm really grateful to you for saying that and normalizing that sometimes it doesn't look like the cookie cutter way that I don't know if we think it should look that way or, I think revelation in any form is good and important and equally valuable. Tell me what you think about that.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I love that you said that sometimes conference talks are what speak to you more. And in a way, that is like modern day scripture, right? Like that's coming from our prophets today, whereas the scriptures were coming from ancient prophets. And so I don't think it's necessarily bad at all to, focus on that for a time and for that to be where you're getting inspiration and revelation and ideas. But then also, like the scriptures are there too. And, we need to kind of look towards both to get what we need in
Yeah,
certain times of our lives.
yeah, for sure. So good. Are there any parts of being an LDS artist that people don't get to see publicly that you wish either you wish that they saw or that you want to share because we don't get to see it very often?
That's a good question. I feel like because of social media, we see more of the behind the scenes, but I think it's just hard to put into words like the real, it's like sometimes what all went into a painting. Like I'll sit down and write about it afterwards, but I think it's hard to put like all of my thoughts into words and like really like sometimes get the full meaning across, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like there were hours and hours that went into this piece of work and maybe like different versions and variations of it. Like you said, you're doing a digital version, you are doing a physical version. There's probably lots of versions of
Mhm.
each painting that gets created. Is there anything that you wish people appreciated more about LDS artists?
I feel like we are very blessed in our church to have a lot of artwork. And so sometimes, yeah, I feel like people don't see how much time and dedication goes into one particular piece. And a question I get all the time when I tell people I'm an artist or online is like, oh, how long did that take you? And I'll be like, oh, well, this one took me like 10 hours. This one took me 5, like blah, blah, blah. And so you can say like how much time it took you, but like that's the time I was just sitting down painting that particular piece. But it's like years went into like building up that skill to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And when I'm not painting it, I'm still thinking about it. Like right now, I'm working on a piece and I'm like, ooh, what if I did this? Or, it's like always on my mind. And so I feel like so much more like time and dedication goes into it than people might think. And I feel like now, just with the rise of AI art, I feel like it makes it harder too because people see
Yep.
so much more of like the Christian art that, is popular right now.
Yep.
Whereas, a couple years ago, even like 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's like you would just see the stuff that was in church buildings, in Desert Book. That was kind of it in those like church manuals. But now we get on Pinterest and it's full of images,
Yeah.
which is wonderful, but also kind of makes it hard to stick out in a way.
Yeah. Will you say a little bit about that? I was hoping AI would come up because I feel like it's one of those things that I don't think a lot of people have awareness that how much AI art is being created. I'm just
Yeah.
curious what your take is. What do you wish more people knew about this?
hmm Yeah, and I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I was listening to your episode that you did about your plot twist.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking about it in sense of your business too. It's like that really affected that industry as well. So it's so interesting to see how it's definitely done good in some senses, but it also has created a lot of hard things too. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't realize when something is AI. I mean, like even in our family group chat the other day, they made this little like AI picture of my niece and they were like, "Oh, I thought that was real." Or, like, a couple weeks ago, they, like, AI'd this celebrity into their picture on a vacation, and they're like, "Look who I met," and we're like,
That's good.
and then they sent us, like, the real picture of them, like, holding their arms out with the space in between. We're like, "Oh, okay, we just got fooled by AI. Cool." So, it is just a crazy world we live in right now where you can create whatever pictures, videos you basically want to through AI.
I feel like I want more people to be more aware of the fact that the artwork they're investing in could be AI,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
to, like, do a personal check-in if that matters to you, or, if you're like, "If it looks the way that I want it to look, cool," but I just think
Right.
some awareness around how much AI artwork is being created, especially of the savior, I think is
Yeah.
good to be aware of. And I'm also curious if you can tell us some, like, instant tells. Like, how can you tell if it's AI artwork or not?
Yeah. Yeah. So, a big way you can tell is I don't know. It's hard to describe, but when you see, like, pictures side by side, you can tell. And so if a picture looks like just a little bit too perfect or smooth in a way, that's a big way to tell. And then even sometimes AI art has more of this like yellowy glow to it.
Yep.
Because sometimes like there'll be like a watercolor picture. So it's not like that smooth. It has more texture, but it still just has that like AI look. And so it's really hard to describe. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot out there, and I've had conversations on my Instagram with people about it, and I would say the majority is like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna invest in that," but there are
Mhm.
some people who are like, "Well, no, like, if I like the way it looks, if it makes me feel something, I don't care, like, then I'm gonna put it on my wall," and that's totally fine.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing is just being aware of it, and so, yeah, I feel like we just need to be transparent about how our artwork is being made, and for me, especially if it's a picture of the savior, I would prefer it to be coming from a real human who has a testimony and who is putting, thought and energy behind it and prayer too. Whereas like AI is not praying about the picture they're creating. The real artists are. So that's a big difference for me.
I think for me, it just kind of caused me to pause and be like, "Oh, I haven't really thought about where is the artwork coming from," and kind of deciding if that matters to me, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I feel like just even, like, pausing to think about it for a second is like, "Oh, no, I would actually appreciate knowing that there's a story behind this, knowing there's a real human behind it," like you said, that there's a artist who has spent years and years and years of training to gain these skills that I'm supporting when I make this investment. I just think it's good to just pause for a sec and do a quick
Yeah.
check, because there is so much artwork of the savior out there now that I feel like I know exactly what you're saying. Like, once you see it enough, you can't unsee it. It's easier to tell pretty quickly if it's AI or not. I was I think there was an artist I think there was an artist that was talking about, like, if their, like, hands are shaped weird, or if they're, like, cut off at weird places, or if there's other animals. If there's sheep, like, they might have, like, their legs and feet don't match up perfectly.
Right.
So I was like,
Yes.
"Oh my gosh, I will be very much more mindful of that," and for me, because I have a small business and it's important to me to support small businesses, like, I will be careful
Yeah.
about who I'm buying artwork from, and I do wanna support actual artists and make sure that they make it through the AI economy, so
Mhm. Yeah.
that's my take.
Another good way too is like if you see something on Pinterest or somewhere, like try to find the artist's Instagram because chances are they are creating content of them actually creating, of their process, of them, physically
Their
painting.
hands in the video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So that is a really good way too, is like, okay, you see this painting, you really like it, but then try to find like the direct source and the artist and try to look for their process.
Yeah.
And if I feel like it's always well, lately, there's that trend of, like, flipping the painting around on those, like, really big canvases. I feel like a good majority of the, like, art accounts that are doing those are AI. So, not all the time, But that is a definite trend I have noticed
Yeah.
is that's kind of like the marketing approach they are taking more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a specific piece of artwork that Nate bought for me. It was probably 18 months ago. And this was before AI was like a common conversation. It was for sure out there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we got it in the mail. It was like a huge print too. And we unrolled it and it was like, why does this look so weird? Like both of
Mhm.
us were looking at it like, I can't quite put a finger on it, but it doesn't feel right to me. It was almost like the background colors were more cool and it was just the back of the savior walking away. It was like his tones were warm and his hair was like this weird red color. And
Mhm.
I was like, I don't think this
Something's
is
off.
actual artwork. That was the first I'd even been exposed to that. And then I was like, oh, cool. We spent like a lot of money on this giant print that I don't really even want to have in my home because I don't like to look at it. But now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, that was totally AI. Now I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, now you know. You're like, "Oh, okay,
I
that's
learned that the
why."
hard way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and sometimes it will just feel off. And so, yeah, it's like there's a reason. It's 'cause it was
Hmm.
created by a computer,
Yeah.
not a human.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. I'm glad that came up because I was like, I don't want to bring like the negative energy into this conversation, but I do think it's
Yeah.
important to be mindful of.
Yeah, and it is hard to talk about, like, it's always something that's kind of in the back of my mind, but I
Yeah.
don't always wanna talk about on
Yeah.
Instagram or social media because I don't want it to come off negative or,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, this thing that's terrible or you should completely avoid or, that, like, all AI is bad. Because I think it can be used for some good, but it's when it's, replacing our actual voice, our actual thoughts, and, like, what we're putting out creatively in the world, then that's when I'm like, "Okay, like, let's think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's,
Yeah.
create our own way things that way." But if it can give me a recipe and, like, ideally, it could do my dishes and my laundry for me, but you know what? If it can just make me a grocery list, I'll take that too.
That's so good. Yeah. It's like, as much as we love how much faster AI makes things, sometimes like, let's make it slow. It's really
Mhm.
okay if it's slow, if it takes some
For
time,
sure.
unless it's like meal planning.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
some
like,
things that I'm like,
that's
there's
a
no
good use
reason
for it.
this needs to be this difficult.
Yes, yeah. Well, my husband, I said he's a teacher, he works in a junior high, and so he totally sees the effects of AI too,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
different way of, like, these kids, like, have a hard time thinking for themselves
Yeah.
because they can just go to this and be like, "Please write me a five-page paper," and
Yeah.
then he reads it and he's like, "There's no way that you came up with this." So, yeah, it's been really interesting to see how it's affecting, a lot of different areas
Yeah.
of our lives.
Yeah. In good ways and in
Mhm.
ways that we are learning
Yes.
what the effects actually are, right?
Yeah.
My last question for you, is there any last thing on your mind for maybe let's say this is advice specifically for an artist who's listening to this episode? What do you wish you could tell her?
I feel like the thing that comes to me first is just to go for it because I feel like, oh, there's so many people out there who have ideas, who feel called to do something, but they're just scared or they don't know the first step. Or maybe they know the first step, but they don't know the 10th step. And so they get stuck and they don't, actually go for it. And so I feel like you just have to do it. Like, if you feel called to do something, like, just go for it. You're never gonna feel ready. You're never gonna feel like it's the right time or you're prepared enough for it, so you just have to start. Yeah, that's the thing I'd say.
If you had to recommend like a first action step for her that takes 5 minutes that would move the needle for her, what would you recommend?
I feel like it depends on what you're wanting to do, but I feel like starting to post on Instagram is really scary for some people, and so I would say that's a good first step is, like, make the account and make your first post and just get that out there, and so then, like, sometimes that's the scariest part, so, like,
Yeah.
just start that,
Yeah.
and then it can only go up from there.
Yeah. Would you say like I'm imagining a lot of ladies who I've talked to recently who are like, I made the account. I have the piece of content to post and I'm stuck there. What like
Mhm.
bridge would you give her? Like mindset or mantra? to help her just do it?
Mhm. Ooh. I don't know. I'd say you just have to do it. What I would do is I would, like, text my close family and friends. I'd be like, "Hey, will you guys all go hype up this post I'm about to do?" So you feel like there's, like, something going on there. Because I feel like a lot of people are scared of either just it being crickets, like, no one's gonna know, no one's gonna see it,
Yeah.
or being judged, or, someone saying something or having whatever thoughts about it. And so I feel like if you can have people in your corner to hype you up and build up your confidence, I feel like that will help a lot.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like maybe I'm thinking about myself. I've started new accounts a couple of times, but like
Yeah.
the first time you put the post out there, it's like I'm not so much scared of it flopping, in air quotes. Flopping can mean a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
I'm scared of it being seen flopping, right? Like I'm
Mm,
scared of
yep.
people noticing that
Mhm.
it tanked. That's actually what I'm more scared of. So
Yeah.
eventually you just get to a point where you just try to not make it mean anything about you and you just keep posting anyway and you just say, I'm gonna do that every day for the next 5 days. And I
Mhm.
do think it's a little bit of like exposure therapy. Like you just have to do it so you can show your nervous system you're not gonna die.
Right, like,
Everything's
"Okay."
fine. Nothing's on fire. Nothing's an
Mhm.
emergency. And then your
Totally.
nervous system can kind of get used to kind of recalibrate to that.
Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on your mind that you'd love to share?
Mm, I'd just say, like, if you have a dream, like, no matter how small or how big it is, just go for it and just set small goals for yourself. And yeah, just do it and pray about it. And yeah, I feel like, oh, one other thought I had when you're saying that is I feel like we all are so scared of being seen trying. Like,
Mm,
if we see someone trying to start a business or a podcast or be an influencer, like, that's like almost embarrassing. But if they have 100,000 followers, we're like, "Oh, they're killing it. Like, they're doing awesome. Like, this is amazing." But no one wants to be in that beginning stages, right? It's so hard to try and to learn and be seen doing
yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
But everyone has to start somewhere.
Yep.
So, even if you have 5 followers, then, like, you just gotta keep going because the only way to get to what you want is to try.
Yep. We all started there at one point.
Mm.
So
Some of
good.
us multiple times.
Yes. Some of us on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Or if you, yeah, rebrand and start a new account or
Yeah.
whatever, like,
Yep.
yep, it's always changing, but yeah.
So good. You're amazing. Thank you so much for this.
No, thank you. You're amazing, and I loved being part of all your pivots along the way.
You have been a part of all my pivots.